too fast? You got it. I used to work for a national ISP as tech support. I was really good at my job, too. Because I was pretty technical even before working there. I had a decent customer service voice. And I knew how to help people fix the problem. And how to educate them to fix it on their own without calling back in the future. I was good at everything except sales. I hated sales. And couldn't bring myself to try convincing people to get a phone line when they didn't want or need it. But sales wasn't, at the time, a huge part of our metrics. And since all of my other metrics were very good, they mostly left me alone about it. I would get coaching. I even got put on a call with someone to try and teach me sales. But nothing worked. Mainly because I didn't want it to. Then they tried coming at me from a different angle. Turned out I had the shortest average call time in the entire call center. I was too efficient, even though my customer satisfaction was high. And my rate of call back was low. My calls were too short. By talking to the customer and getting to know them better, I had a better chance of selling them something. At first I ignored them since nothing was in writing. And I wasn't in trouble. But they kept bringing it up. I eventually decided to take them up on it. The next few months I talked to people. A lot. We discussed the weather, their favorite movies, their job, or anything else that came up in conversation. I once had an hour-long conversation with someone while we checked and triple-checked each and every single piece of equipment in his house. Fascinating guy. Worked for Ma Bell back when it was first broken up. He just wanted someone to talk to and, hey, they said make my calls longer. Right? My sales for that year went to 1. Though I tried really hard for 0. Still, I was no longer the fastest person in the call center. But I might have been one of the friendliest. I used to work for US Bank as a personal banker, which is just a fancy title for a customer service rep on the phone. I hadn't actually considered before I got that job that banks are a business and not a utility. I was disgusted to learn that the entire profit margin of the bank was built upon screwing customers out of their money without giving them anything in return. We simply hold onto their money for them. And then charge them all the fees we can possibly get away with. We purposefully process charges in the worst way possible in order to maximize the number of overdraft fees on people who are already struggling. And then we offer those people payday loans at exorbitant interest rates to fuck them over even worse. And we're constantly trying to shove new accounts onto them. And a large part of our metrics was sales. We had to sell a certain number of products to people every month to keep our job. So people would call in with problems with their bank account. Like people stealing money from them or them not being able to afford all the fees we were charging. And we were required to try and sell these people who are struggling into accepting even more ways that we could drain their money. Nothing we offered was actually helpful if they understood how it worked. It just was made to seem helpful. You keep overdrafting your account? Open a savings account for overdraft protection. Never mind that actually exacerbates the problem of not having enough money in your account to begin with. Since you're now splitting your money between accounts. Never mind that it also charges fees, such as minimum balance fees and fees for using it too often. Don't look behind the curtain at how we're fucking you. Just accept our help. And the worst part is that it was the most relaxed customer service job I ever had. Because the customer was never ever angry at us. We were always able to deflect the blame for their problems. Someone else stole their money. The merchant made a mistake. We could even blame the customer themselves to their faces for spending money they didn't have in not keeping close enough tabs on their account. The whole time we were stabbing them in the back and screwing them over. They were thanking us for being so helpful. It made me sick. So many people thought we were the good guys protecting their money from criminals and abuse, while we were robbing them blind. And meanwhile all my bosses cared about was that I opened more accounts with them that could charge more fees, or opening more loans that could charge interest, regardless of whether or not the customer actually wanted or needed it. People need to know that banks are not your friends. They don't care about you. They just want your money like any other evil corporation. Don't ever trust anything they offer as help and read the fine print. Upvoted for your friendliness. I work in a call center and would love to be told that my calls are too short. My employer is a subcontractor and I work on 2 campaigns for them. Collections and customer service. Both inbound only. Thank heavens. I would love to hear that my call time was too low, but I'm the guy who likes to talk. I enjoy finding out about customers and their lives and will usually contribute wholeheartedly to the conversation myself. This has been to the discontent of many a past manager as I'm usually well above my average. Handling time target. Once over, we'd usually offer a callback after we got the system open, as this was only measured inbound, but the client may have realized our tactics and made us change our ways. Nowadays, if I am found chatting on the phone, it's probably while I am doing work on the account that is taking time, rather than just for the sake of it. I do, however, do whatever I can to have a meaningful chat with those who are happy to. After all, I may be the only person some customers speak to that day. Or I may have someone who is at the lowest in their life, and in those cases, I will happily be a sounding board. Someone to shout at. Whatever. But I always advise them to seek help and refer them places if they're happy to. Many still have my work email too. I reassure them that they can email whenever they need me and I'll call back as soon as I can. Not just if they need energy help specifically, but if they are just down. I'll disguise it as an account review or whatever. Someone said to me on one of the first times I did this, about 6 months after starting, mid-2016, "But what if you leave?" I turned around and said that if I do leave, I'll ensure there's a way for the customer to know. Permanent out of office if needed, as I don't know if, when they take our emails down. But now the response is more like, does it look like input going anywhere? I've been here 63 months. In a job that was a 2 to 3 month stopgap. Like hell they're getting rid of me. Quote, "It can take its toll caring too much sometimes. I've come away from work and cried about or got angry for a customer so many times. But I wouldn't have it any other way. It may be just some call center job to a lot of people, but to me, it's a job I love." Opened my free award for you, was hoping for a wholesome but hugs is close enough, right? I remember back when I worked for one of these call centers for CS on some phone company. Not gonna say which one, but it was really big. Anyways, we were divided in groups by service area. So let's say I was assigned to the West Coast. I'd get calls only from CA and surrounding states. So I don't remember which area I was assigned to. But I'd mostly get call from elderly people. And Karen here and there. And my supervisors were always with the same story, trying to make us sell USLA services to these people. Most of the time they had silly problems that would take a couple of minutes to solve. But they really just wanted to talk. These were people who their kids had mostly forgotten. And what do I do when they keep bugging me about the time of my calls and sales? I start talking over with the customers. There was this lady who had been practically scammed into so much shit she had a bill accumulated of $700. So what I'd do, since we're allowed to give credit to customers, I gave as much as the system allowed me without being flagged. And I can't tell you how happy this lady sounded. Anyway, I didn't last at that job. I hated every second of it. Mainly because I didn't want it to. Years ago I worked at an outsourced call center in the US, and my call time was high. Somewhere in the 16-minute range. This was mainly because we were dealing with medical insurance and I tried to make sure everything was cleared up and I provided the callers with information they were going to need yet didn't know it yet. Think things like if follow-up services or adjacent services were covered. X. You get a surgery, but what about physical therapy? Or medication? Or a cane, etc.? A lot of people don't think to ask until their doctor brings it up either right before the procedure or after. Well, this was bad to my supervisor who was always on about one call resolution, and not having the members call back. I was told to only answer their questions. Within a week or so my call time dropped to 8 minutes. When my supervisor came to congratulate me, they asked how I did it. The phrase, "I cared," was not what they expected to hear as they froze for a moment with the most confused look on their face. For those wondering, no, I was not fired for this. I survived 2 rounds of layoffs when different contracts ended and they had to shuffle people around to new ones and only left because eventually they could not get a new contract and had to let everyone go. I made it to severance payday, so I must have done something right. This just reminds me of the time I called my internet provider about moving our internet to a new house. And the guy on the phone helping me out ended up having a 45-minute conversation with me about video games. At the time I couldn't believe it. But I think back to that moment every now and again and it's just a wholesome memory to remember. Sounds like Charter Communications. I want to believe the ex-Mobile customer caught on what you were doing and played along with it. This is more wholesome compliance. I love it. You sound like the best person to come to. I am a marketing student. You can't come to sell phone lines to people who don't need them. You're a good salesman. What do your employers want? A goddamn miracle? I'm fast as fuck, boy. I once worked in directory and enhanced services for a very large telecom. I got great customer reviews, etc., but my call time averages never quite seemed short enough. Then I got a kidney stone and they terminated me for not being able to stay in one place to take call X all day. It was funny weeks later to receive customer service awards in the mail. Oh God, I totally feel you. That wouldn't fly at my old call center job because our average handling time had to be under 330 seconds. The actual call and the documenting of it. I was super efficient but wasn't selling enough. This was customer service. Mind you, not telemarketing. So they wanted me to have linger calls to increase my sales. But I'm not a salesperson. I told them that before being hired and was promised there were no percentages I had to achieve. All bullshit. OBVS. Some convos to explain myself and threats of write-ups because I wasn't reaching the sales quota I had to. And one depression later, I quit. Fuck call centers. Damn, have I been there before. Like literally, other than being asked to make my calls longer. I was the shortest handle time. The highest scored. And sales were not a part of our metrics, but they kept pushing me to sell. I cheated though. Because like you, I hated selling and it took up too much time when our queues were always slammed. Hard to spend time on the phone selling when every call starts with getting yelled at about the wait time. So, I cheated. There was always a promo going on or something. And if there wasn't, I'd make one up and credit it on their account. Sorry for all the trouble. I'm going to give you a free month of faster internet. Just don't forget to call in a month to cancel if you don't need or want it anymore. If there was a promo out there for it, great. If not, we were usually talking a $10 credit at most to make it free. Customers seemed to love it more than just getting a credit, because we were usually only allowed to credit the amount of time something was broken if it was our fault. So think getting credited a few cents to maybe $1 or $2 at most. Which just pissed people off to no end. But this usually cost nothing or very little in the grand scheme of things. And I made a sale. It was far from anything as bad as our sales reps did. And at least I was upfront about it with customers. So they never really gave me a hard time about it. And no one just goes back to no DVR once they've had DVR. It's addicting like that. My other sales tactic was if the problem was caused by order entry errors, I could either fix the original order, which gave the commission to the original sales rep, or cancel the order and re-enter it, giving myself the commission. Of course I gave myself the commission, which also made it harder for them to give me crap about not selling if I was getting regular commissions. I sure as hell pissed off a lot of sales reps. But my boss defended me and told them if they didn't like it they could put their orders in correctly next time. This became the most often used tactic by our entire department. We had a lot of order entry errors, and this didn't seem to really fix them for some reason.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.